Barnaby, good to see you. So what's your take on this backflip, the Queensland Premier taking tests, then going for certificates, now going back to tests, possibly saving $150 per traveller? How have you made sense of this?
Chaotic, scatterbrain politics of the Queensland Premier. I mean, what on earth is going on? For 24 hours, she goes out there and all of a sudden everybody would have to go to a pathologist, get a written certificate to go back to their home state. I don't get this. And then all of a sudden she tries to pull this sneaky little Swifty of, oh, well, we want the federal government to pay for it. She puts out a tweet with welcoming that the federal government is paying for it. Based on what? Based on, I don't know, whatever was floating through her head at that time. And now it's back to where we've always been. You can get a PCR, you get a test. It's 50-50 between the state and the federal government for the person who gets the test. It's free, and we're back to where we started. I don't know. It's for 24 hours. It's I know she was moved by the spirits. I think I don't know what was going on, but what worries me is she's running the state, and that is a bit of a concern.
I mean, I'm confused. I'm going up to Queensland, hopefully, at Christmas, and I got no idea now what to do. So as far as you can tell, Barnaby, what does a traveller who wants to go to Queensland now need to do?
I worry about what the next iteration coming out of the Premier's mouth is going to be. I don't know. Just stay glued to the radio and decide whether in the Empire of Anna things are going to change before you get to the border to go home. It's a lot of this things is it's kind of crazy. It's dark side of the moon stuff. If you break your leg in Queensland and it's not life-threatening and you're not from Queensland, you have to go to a hospital in New South Wales. And I mean, who's running the show? I mean, this is really dippy stuff. And then you've got their inability to go and talk to their own people about their own policies in regards vaccinations. They hide down in the bunker in Brisbane, in George Street in Brisbane, when they should be up in Yeppoon talking to the people and explaining their government's policies to their people. I mean, but that's Queensland. I don't know about beautiful one day and unfortunately run by Anna the next.
Meanwhile, the vaccination rates continue to lag. Meanwhile, Barnaby, on to matters out of Canberra. Disunity is death, goes the saying. So how do you win the election next year with Rebel MPs crossing the floor and either abstaining or voting against the government?
Well, anybody who's been around politics for a fair while realise that the last 2 weeks of any sitting year are always tetchy, and this one is no different. I firmly believe that the views of the people who have concerns on certain issues, they have one greater concern, and that is that you'd end up with a Labor Green government, because that's the alternative. The alternative to the Nationals and the Liberals is a Labor Green government, and just go listen to the policies of Adam Bandt. All the industries should shut down, all the mining industries should shut down. What would happen to the value of our dollar if that was to happen? By reason of our dollar going down, the price of goods going up, inflation going up, interest rates having to track inflation up, it would be a complete and utter economic disaster for Australia if the green policies, which would be part of a Labor Green government, were to come into play.
So if you had to, bring some of your members into line, such as George Christensen?
I don't, walk around with a mallet. That won't work. George is a very competent, very intelligent person, as are they all, and therefore you'll have discussions, no doubt, and I'll continue those discussions. But I'm not going to go around and start ordering people. The Nationals pride themselves on being the most democratic party in the parliament, and we will remain that way. And we have discussions, but I know for one thing that George does not want a Labor Green government. None of these people, Gerard Rennick, I imagine, does not want. He's in the Liberal Party. Does not want a Labor Green government. I mean, that's ultimately the question that they go before the people. You have a Labor Green government, or you have a Nationals Liberal government, and I think that the Labor Green government is a pretty dangerous alternative.
Right. I mean, so it's vaccines that is at the heart of this. What's your response to George's claim that the government should end vaccine discrimination?
Overwhelmingly, in fact, the things that people are protesting about in Queensland and other places, you can't go to the shops, or there's restrictions on going to the shops. They're state laws. You can't go to a church, state laws. You can't go to a pub, state laws. You can't go to a sports stadium, state laws. How you congregate in public, state laws. These are state laws, and what the state is doing back in the Empire of Anna is the states are wanting to make it look like that this is a federal issue. It's not. The states make the laws, and so the problem is with the states. The federal government has not passed one law saying everybody must be mandatorily vaccinated. We don't. In certain very small niche areas where there's high risk, such as aged care.
International arrivals.
Yeah, sure. It's niche areas. But we are not, the federal government does not believe and does not propose to have across the board mandatory vaccinations. In fact, we're completely against it. So what the states do and the problems the states cause, the states must answer for. And so, I keep saying, well, why give the states cover for the problems the states created?
So do you think those mandates should end when it comes to the states? Do you, in that sense, agree with George?
I think that there'll come a time where the states can make up their own mind, but if the states get to a point where they believe enough people are vaccinated, then I think life should go on. But that, once more, I'm not going to buy into the states having to do the state's job. If the states aren't capable of doing their job, then just get out of the way. But these problems that people have, that people are demonstrating about, are problems created by states. And I'm not going to get myself on the hook trying to answer for Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk and whatever ideas floating through her head today, or Miles and his sort of edicts and orations from George Street in the middle of Brisbane when he should be in the middle of Queensland, or Mr Andrews or Mr McGowan. I mean, they're the ones who put themselves on these soapboxes so they can get themselves off them.
Barnaby, just a quick one before we go on the religious discrimination bill. Some of those details out today. Have you got any concerns with what you've been able to see so far?
Well, I think that it's been negotiated to the nth degree. There are people on both sides. Some people want it to be stronger, and other people say, they've still got concerns. I'll tell you the one thing is, we told the Australian people that we were going to bring this into the Parliament. We told the Australian people when we won an election that we would have this bill to our best endeavours through, and I think that's precisely what we should do. There's obviously, on our side, there's a large part of the constituency of the Nationals and Liberals have strong faith convictions, and they need to be respected, and they need to be supported, and they need to be protected. And this is a part of how we go about that. There are a lot of people in those communities who wish it would have actually gone further. So I think we've met in the middle. Let's get on with it and get it through and move on.
So is there a danger, just a final one here, is there a danger that because you've got to satisfy so many different parties that it just gets watered down so much, and many might ask, well, do you even need to do it?
No, it's a good bill. It's a good bill and it needs to go through, and it's supported. But what I do say is that people have come to the table and everybody's given something up to arrive at that table, and we know what we want. We want to make sure that a person who has a faith does not have to hide it under a blanket, as long as it's not out there to hurt people or physically maim people. But you don't have to hide your faith under a blanket in Australia. You have your faith, you can state your faith, and that's a big part of so many people's lives. And in so many other nations, it's protected, and it should be protected in the same vein in Australia.
OK, Barnaby Joyce, good to have you with us this morning. As always, thanks for your time. Talk to you soon.
You're welcome, Peter.